Welcome to This Week in Guns, a podcast that covers the commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. I'm your host, Jake Challen, president of the Firearms Radio Network and host of Gun Guy Radio. And you make this show possible. That's right, you simply click through our Amazon affiliate link the next time you're shopping online, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. Well, we have an excellent panel with us this week. We have Ebbs from House of Guns and House of Arms. Hey, Ebbs.
Hey, Jake, let's be honest. We have an excellent panel every week.
Well, you know, we're missing a couple this week, so it might be a little more excellent.
So maybe the word you're looking for is exceptional.
Exceptional? Exceptional. The one and only Natalie Foster, Girls Guide to Guns. Hey, Natalie.
Hey, Jake. Glad to be back. And I was wondering if President is that a new title for you, like El Presidente? Because that's what I'm going to start calling you.
It's not a new title. I just haven't used it much before.
I like it.
So you're podcasting for two this evening.
Indeed. We got Bud in the Oven, who will be joining us in this conversation.
And we have Nate Murr from Breach Bang Clear and writer for Recoil Magazine. Hey, Nate.
Hi, Jake. It's good to be back.
Great to have you. And also shout out to our two newest team members here on the This Week in Guns team. Shout out to Kenny and Coy for working on the show notes. They're going to be contributing to the show notes from here on out every week. So you should expect the shows to be at least 10% longer with all the new stories in the show notes.
And the show notes are awesome, I gotta say. They're really good this week.
Yeah.
It's obvious that Jake isn't doing all of the show notes anymore. That's what you're trying to say.
No, there's a lot of news this week. There's a lot to talk about this week.
There is a lot to talk about this week. And, you know, an exceptional panel needs exceptional show notes. Am I wrong?
True that. No, you're not.
Absolutely. Patriot Patch Company makes this episode possible. Head on over to patriotpatch.co and pre-order the Huckleberry patch today. And we are to the top stories of this evening. Native American tribe in California considers buying gun maker Colt.
What?
Indians ride to the rescue. So a band of Morongo,
Morongo, yeah.
Mission Indians are riding to the rescue of Colt Defense LLC. A private equity owner, Science Capital Management, has been clashing with bondholders over the control of Colt, and Science has had the upper hand, but bondholders then moved into the lead and offering financing to turn around via Chapter 11 proceedings. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. So, it looks like, this Indian tribe might be taking some steps here to take the lead over at Colt.
Please do it.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
How cool would that be?
It would be very well. Of course, you did see on the Wall Street Journal, on the Wall Street Journal piece that you linked there, the very last line. Did you see that? So their attorney's the guy that's been quoted throughout both of these articles that you linked. And he's spunky. I think he's hilarious. He would be funny to have on a show. But his last line was, "We have gone to great lengths to get our hands on Colts," he said. "Just ask General Custer."
Which is kind of, it's like a poetic full circle.
Indeed. You got to respect it, And he's not wrong. I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. He said one of his other quotes is, Colt is the gun that won the West, and we are the West. And, I don't know. It sounds like they would take a lot of pride in it and doing it right. And they're a really famous tribe out here in California. They're kind of near Palm Springs, between LA and Palm Springs, and so we see them occasionally, like when driving to gun site or whatever. And anyway, I don't know. They seem to be really business savvy, and it seems like they do a heck of a lot better job than what's been done over the last few years to Colts, so it could be really good.
I mean, if you think about it, I don't think I've ever met a single Native American that wasn't a gun owner or, wasn't pro-gun. So that's that's something. I don't have a whole lot on this one. Like I said, Colt. As much as I don't like a lot of things about Colt and how currently I would not buy any of their products, it's still an American legacy company that I don't want to see go the way of the dodo. So whatever it takes to get Colt, back on track and to keep it from being a dying American brand, I'm all for. And if this is the way that saves it, then I'm all for it.
I think that's a really good way to put it. And is it kind of awesome that, like, how hyper American is that? If they are to buy it, you know what I mean? Like, major roots there. So that's very cool.
If we could get Coca-Cola to buy it, that'd be even more awesome.
Colt by Coke. Hey man, what type of Coke are we talking about here? Okay. Because the doodoo not belong.
But then you'll be buying guns with someone else's name on them because it says share a Colt with Benny or something, So.
I mean, that was one of their most genius marketing tactics in a very long time, so maybe it's not a bad thing.
The funny thing is, like back during Vietnam, originally Colt had the contract for the original AR-15, which became the M16. But during the Vietnam conflict, they couldn't make M16s fast enough, so they subcontracted out to other people. So Hydromatic division of Cadillac Gauge made M16s, and after the war, those guns got put into storage, and they reused those M16A1 lower receivers to build Mark 12 sniper rifles for Iraq and Afghanistan. So at one point, I had a Mark 12, a fully automatic suppressed sniper rifle that was made by Cadillac.
That is amazing!
That is. Can we stop the show now? That was the most badass story I've ever heard on live air, and I don't feel like we can do anything better in the show. Let's go straight to full auto news and end it. Jake, what do you think?
I concur.
I'm going to start playing God Bless America, and we're going to start the fireworks early. So.
Yeah, a little Johnny Cash in the background would be great right now. That is so cool. This is one of the reasons I love when Nate is on, because you always get a cool history lesson, like military, about military arms.
Breaking news this week: Leland Yee pleads guilty to gun running charges.
Boom!
Now, if only we can get Eric Holder to admit the same.
Yeah, that's a stretch. Maybe in a decade he'll actually go down for what he did. But the Leland Yee thing is a very good start, especially as a Californian. I take a special amount of pride in this particular story, and I did think that it was kind of a slap on the wrist. Like the penalty is only like $250,000, and he could be facing up to 20 years. But I mean, California, especially up there, is like Chicago. I'm sure.
Yeah, that means he'll be the governor in like 5 years.
Right. I mean, exactly. So, well, it's fun for now, and let's enjoy every minute of it because we don't know how long it's going to last.
So I guess, does anyone want to explain who Leland Lee is for those that...
Leland Lee, yeah. So, well, sorry, go ahead. I mean, he's a state senator, right? And he's been particularly, I think state senator, isn't that right?
I believe.
Yeah, state senator. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I just want to make sure I got that right. But so he has been extremely vocal in his anti-gun rhetoric for, I mean, as long as I've lived here, which is, like 13 years or something like that. I mean, he's just always been really, really loud about it. So the whole story is that it turns out that while he was, marching for all these gun bans, assault weapons ban and, the lead ban, like anything he could possibly ban, anti-concealed carry, et cetera, I mean, Barbara Boxer's bestie, basically, is what has been happening. Feinstein, they're like this. So, anyway, all that to say that he has the entire time been running guns for these cartels. I think they're Japanese cartels, right?
It's like
up in the Bay. What did you say?
I think it's like kind of like Yakuza. It's kind of like the mafia or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the equivalent. I don't recall that particular name, but I can look it up. But anyway, I mean, he has been like the worst of the worst violating the law. Fully automatic weapons, full auto in California, and rocket launchers. I mean, just like...
Wasn't that the best part? Because when that story originally broke, the rocket launchers part was like an incidental, just by the way. It was like he's been accused of being involved in smuggling of blah 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 blah, which also includes some rocket launchers. Like the guy he's like hand delivering law rockets into the trunk of these cars, and that's just like a tiny little smidgen of the story at the very end. Which
right.
And this what is this, like 2 years old? This has been a while ago.
At least a year.
Yeah, I think it's been about a year.
Yeah, and I swear it's because California journalists literally don't know what rocket launchers are. So they're like, oh, and by the way, I don't know, these things, rocket launchers.
I don't know what that is, but I know we need to ban them, and ban them now.
That's right. But what I'm really realizing, guys, is that this is actually just the plot for Fast and Furious 8.
The thing about it is when it says the list of possible punishments, where it says about the prison time, and also the fines and restitution, all this other nonsense, but it also says possible deportation. So to me that's curious, because I didn't realize, is this guy not, like, how can he be a senator and not be a U.S. citizen, is what I don't understand. How is deportation on the list?
I think that is probably just one of the possible punishments, maybe if he were illegal. I don't know. This is where I'd love to have Adam come in and tell us all about the legal intricacies on this, but I don't see him getting deported. Where are they going to put him?
The thing is, if he's 100% U.S. citizen, then how you can't deport somebody? That's not like you are banished from the realm of America.
Well, isn't that like a punishment here?
So maybe he has like citizenship or something.
We need
you have to go back to your homeland. Oh, that's too bad. I get to go back to my homeland or go to prison. I'll choose door number 1.
Right.
How would that ever be a good option? I guess unless he moved to America to like run from the people that he was delivering guns to. It's been this whole ongoing thing.
I think he is a U.S. citizen. I think it just. I think he was. I don't think he was naturalized. I don't know. I need to look at his history.
If he doesn't have dual citizenship, how would it be possible to deport the guys? I don't understand.
Yeah,
I don't. He's 100% American, then that would be impossible, right?
I don't know. Maybe one of the viewers knows and chime in.
It's probably just bad reporting. The same reporter that doesn't know what rocket launchers are. They're like, he doesn't quite look American. Maybe he can be deported. Breaking news this week: court ruling on gay marriage may lead to nationwide concealed carry reciprocity. Possibly.
No.
Yeah, well, this sounds super exciting, but everything is a total stretch. Like, every explanation, in my opinion, that I've seen is like, oh, good try, guys, but I think we'd still be breaking the law.
Yeah, I read a couple myself, and I'm going to agree with Natalie on that. A lot of it's like, well, if it applies to this, and you look at it like this, and then also it's going to apply to CCW, and I mean, I'm all for it, don't get me wrong. Like, whatever we have to use to accomplish that goal, I'm all for it, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the path to success, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Everything that I've read is just like, oh, guys, that's not quite logical, but fingers crossed, but...
So yeah, maybe a case where maybe they'll have a chance with another court case and use this as, a previous, definition possibly to go off of. The last, I'm going to read the last paragraph in the guns.com article about this. It said, did the Supreme Court rule today that all gun cases are unconstitutional? ? And noted Open Carry Texas on their social media account. If states...
Oh my gosh. Can we just say that they're quoting Open Carry Texas? And I love Texas, but it's Open Carry Texas.
All of Texas is open carry now, Natalie. Don't you know?
I think the complicated thing about this is, in terms of whenever you use a ruling for something else to say, well, now you have to allow this. The dangerous thing is, because the ruling wasn't specifically about that, the only thing you have on your side is if you try to initiate your carry in terms of reciprocity, then you have that as a potential defense in court if you were to be in trouble for carrying a concealed weapon in a state that wasn't previously reciprocal to the state that your concealed carry permit is in. So it's not just like, well, it's not like the cop is going to say, oh yeah, that new gay marriage law, that's going to apply, I'm just going to let you go. There's a chance that you're still going to be arrested. There's a chance that you're still going to be tried, and the danger that you could be convicted, depending on the judge or jury, however far it goes, that determines, well, because this Supreme Court law defined it as this, we're going to let you off on that basis. And so you have to decide if you're going to carry concealed in a place that was not previously reciprocal to the state you have a permit in, you have to be the one to decide if that's a risk worth taking, if you want to take the fight that far. I, for one hand, I just don't have that kind of patience, and I don't care. I just typically avoid states that aren't reciprocal to mine if I'm passing through by car in particular. So it is an extremely deep rabbit hole that the water is muddy at best in.
Well, right,
I think you nailed it. Yeah.
And for anyone to go through some kind of case like that might take it. You might be brought to the Supreme Court level, and if you got a job, a family, kids, and everything. I mean, that would disrupt like 2-3 years of your life.
Well, not to mention it takes, 10, 15 years sometimes to get up that far between all the appellate courts and all of that. And, I mean, you could be sitting in jail. There are people sitting in jail for firearms laws violations right now. So.
Well, there's people sitting in jail right now for pot usage in Colorado, even though that was passed a few years ago and made completely 100% legal for recreational use over the age of 21. If you did it before that date that was written in his law, there's still people rotting in prison right now for that are screwed.
Yeah. Good example.
I own guns, but I hate the NRA. This is a Washington Post article about a so-called gun guy that not too happy with the NRA.
I have to recuse myself from this one, I think. Or maybe not. I don't know. I mean, I read the article, and there's not a lot in there about the NRA, actually.
This guy, I don't know, this guy's a piece of work. He says, my guns are long guns intended for hunting and skeet shooting. Relatively few crimes are committed with hunting weapons.
Well, and I got to say, not to jump ahead too much, but your theme throughout of all the show notes and the links that you've got, you really, because he also talks about how gun owners are dying off, and all of us are under 40, right? So I think we've got a while before we all die off.
Wait, he said that gun owners are dying off?
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically said that, I mean, some of his points, I need to not say a couple of things, but anyway.
I was going to say, I don't care about his other points. The dude just completely discredited himself by saying that. That's the biggest growing demographic, as we're going to talk about in a little bit, right now, is young people buying guns.
Right.
I know 7-year-olds that are gun owners. You know what I mean? As an American tradition, it starts usually in our youth. Some people don't, approach the gun community till they're a little bit older. They come to it late in life. But I mean, I've been shooting guns since I was 7 years old. I was technically a gun owner at 7. There's a whole generation of Americans. It's the same way. Right. That's just ridiculous. That's just a nonsensical statement for anybody to make.
Well, most of the article is pretty nonsensical, actually, and there are a lot of arguments.
Right. No, not this paragraph. This isn't nonsensical at all. He says, rather than being our American birthright, gun ownership should be a privilege earned through examination and training, like driving a car. But in the 21st century America, arms bearing is an inalienable right thanks to 27 anarchist words of the Constitution.
Anachronistic. Outdated is what he's saying.
Not sufficient for the current period of time.
Right.
So glad you were following along with me, Natalie.
I was tracking.
Ratified in the 18th century world of slow-loading muskets. So our founding fathers they were just dumb, and they didn't They didn't realize we'd create such scary guns in these modern times.
I don't understand how we continually compare that to car ownership or usage when, like, we're talking about like a 6,000-pound death machines that we're giving to 16-year-olds who have the practical intelligence to pass an elementary test. I mean, there's no stress test involved. There's no simulation of anxiety or potential rage. I mean, here's your license. Go put everyone's life in danger. We're trusting you to make responsible decisions now, and that's not even a valid comparison. I mean, you have to be how old to buy a long gun over the counter in most states?
18.
Simple quiz. Okay, 18. How old to buy a handgun over the counter in every state?
21.
And the states differ on how old you have to be in order to get a concealed carry license. Some are 21, same as handgun purchase age. Some are 23, and some I would say some are older than that, but I only know for sure 21 and 23 because I knew when I lived in Missouri at the time when I was trying to get a concealed carry permit, I couldn't do it until I was 23 years old. Colorado's 21, but that's up to the individual states. But to use, gosh, I hate writers like this. It's just. Jake, talk to your content providers that are... Actually, this is really good stuff, actually, so they're doing a great job.
Maybe I should have people on the show that could perform under stress of these stories. I don't know.
No, I read this article when it came out earlier this week, and, I mean, he's clearly a new gun owner, but it's that self-loathing thing that is so frustrating because he does, I mean, you made that point a minute ago, that he talks about his long guns and how, all the guns he has are long guns, and all of the guns that all the guns that really commit any crime are handguns, and you're like, oh my gosh, really? We're back to this? And I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, that argument altogether has kind of fallen by the wayside, right? I mean, because I'd like to know why you guys think that the handgun argument, because that was really a big thing in the 80s, right? And maybe some in the 90s, but the 90s was really dominated by the assault weapons ban.
I mean, it's because handguns are self-aware and they shoot people all by themselves, Long guns are a little dumber.
No, but seriously,
I think it was the original purpose behind that was some skewed data about it's kind of like how some states, I don't know if they still do, but they have like the cooling down period where you can buy the gun, you just can't leave with the gun, right?
Yeah.
I think it was one of those things where like, well, at 18 there's the threat that somebody can buy a handgun and commit crimes with it, but by somehow being a couple years older, it's less likely for youth to buy handguns to use as crimes. It's complete nonsense, don't get me wrong. It's really hard for me not to talk about it and not result in a lot of timestamps, but it's kind of like that thing where, what was it, a few weeks ago when we said about Las Vegas got rid of their antiquated law? Mm-hmm. I forget what it was. It was
handgun registration.
Yeah, the handgun registration. It's kind of the same thing. It was just like bad data that turned into a bad law, and then other states looked at other states and were like, oh, well, if our neighboring state's doing that, we should too. I've seen different explanations for it, and none of them are good. So it's one of those things where it's like, most car insurance or car rental places won't rent a car to you if you're not over 18, right? Isn't it like 23 or something to rent a car?
It's like 25.
Yeah, right. So their logic with that, so why can't you rent a car when you're 18, right? So I think it's like a maturity thing, and somehow they viewed handguns as the same sort of thing. Like you can be in possession of a handgun when you're 18 years old, but it just has to be with your parents' consent, So I mean, I can almost see where they're going with that and why they made it into a law, but I don't agree with it.
Well, it's all about control. I mean, it's the same thing with liquor laws and cigarettes and everything.
Yeah, well, it's like the responsibility thing, though. It goes to the thing like Bloomberg said a long time ago. It's like he doesn't know of anybody that's 18 years old that can be trusted with a firearm, right? Well, the thing about that is, federal government gave me a rocket launcher and a grenade launcher and let me drive tanks when I was 18 years old. Like, hey, Murr, do you want some grenades? I'm like, hell yeah, give me some more grenades, man. oh, hey, is that a rotary rocket, grenade launcher? Like I could carry a machine gun and go to combat when I was 18, but you're saying when I'm 20 years old I can't buy a Beretta M9, the gun that you trust me with at work? It's nonsensical that way too. It's maturity doesn't come with age. I know plenty of 50-year-old men that are like 14-year-old boys in their brain. You know what I mean? Age doesn't necessarily mean that you're responsible.
Let's talk about the next generation of U.S. gun owners. This was a little segment on the Today Show, I believe. I can't get into this. It's got an autoplay.
It was Ronan Farrow, who you may remember from the MSNBC days. He took over. Gosh, who did he take over for? It wasn't Pierce Morgan, but it was somewhere, along those lines. They were trying to fill space. So this is Mia Farrow and the weird guy that makes all the movies that are really existential. Woody Allen. So Mia Farrow and Woody Allen's kid, I believe, is the guy who did this. So, but I gotta give him some credit because I felt like he was pretty fair. And Matt Lauer automatically took it political, but it is very interesting to me to see how millennials are really taking this in a very, to them it's not, he points this out, to them it's not political, and they do understand it. Just like Nate just pointed out, they do understand the implications of owning and shooting firearms. They get it, but of course, the Matt Lauers of the world, he did politicize it a little bit. But I got to give it to Ronan Farrow, who I think has like a Pulitzer Prize or something, like even before he ever went on the air. But they were pretty fair, I thought. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I'm still trying to figure out what angle they're going for with this whole thing. Like looking at it, like they went and interviewed a bunch of popular gun personalities, like virtually everybody I follow on Instagram, So I don't understand.
I didn't know any of the guys. Who were the guys?
Just like gun personality type people. I mean, like the thing about, we live in a world where everybody has a smartphone, right? So anybody can film a video at any time on the gun range or living their daily life. So the thing is, like people say about like being Insta famous. Like, I'm just a dude that writes for a living and invents really cool things for guns. Like, but I'm pretty much just a regular guy, right? But I got like 14,000 followers on Instagram, right? So the thing is, it's like anybody can get famous over anything anymore. So if you post videos of shooting cool guy guns, next thing you know, you got 50,000 followers, and you're somebody, little air parentheses there. You're somebody in the gun world. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't understand like why they're making a big deal about younger people embracing the gun culture, or the gun culture being a negative thing or an intriguing thing that would make it really newsworthy. To me, it's just an American thing. It's a rite of passage for the majority of Americans. It's just something else. It's no different than people collecting comic books, or somebody being into muscle cars, or somebody having a different hobby like golf or whatever. The thing about this country is that you can like whatever you want to like. You can have fun with whatever you want to have fun with, as long as you don't hurt anybody. It's part of our great nation, being free and being allowed to do what you want.
Well, and can it be okay for us when I see all these references to like no other nation has this, or all these gun laws, or this makes America different, or whatever? Isn't it okay for us to have these laws and be different, that we're not like other countries that have different or stricter gun laws, or don't understand, because we're freaking America and we get to do that? I mean, isn't that at some point can't we be proud of that?
Maybe one of the reasons why we are so awesome as a nation is because we aren't like everybody else. And that's the thing. It's like all these people they want to change America, right? What do? They always say, well, look at Canada with their medical, or like, let's look at, the British, we look at socialist nations and we say, oh, we should copy their format. And then you see their nations, these countries that are just as, they're more jacked up than we are as countries. Their economies are better. their system is no better of a system than what we have. If anything, it's worse. And we want to emulate that. We want to copy that.
Right.
Right. No. The reason why America's so great is because we're not like everybody else. So it shouldn't be like a big deal.
Let me add my 2 cents real quick. What they did, wasn't Nick Leghorn one of the guys they pulled in from Tag? Yep. Which I thought that was interesting to see. Like, if they are reaching out to somebody, they're not. They went someplace notable, at least to the online gun community, and said, what's your input with this? I thought that was a positive thing. Then the other thing is, I don't need to see Matt Lauer's face anymore. I'm totally done with that guy. I think he's completely neutered, and he just stop crossing your legs on TV, man, and start.
It is a very awkward leg cross, isn't it? It's like
it's terrible. It's not. It's unnatural. It looks. I tried it because I thought maybe he's on to something. And
then, like, dude, you're not wearing a mini skirt. You're wearing slacks, okay?
No. Yeah, I was like, no, I'm done with this. At least, like, you don't have to have your knees a mile apart, but let's just rethink this whole thing. So I tuned in because I care about Jake. That's about it.
So, in all fairness, the video is it's not like a hit piece. It's not necessarily negative, but at the same time, I'm curious of where they're going with it. You know what I mean? Because usually, whenever big media gets involved with us puny little gun owners, it's usually because they want to cast this in a negative light, or there's some sort of agenda that they're gunning for with it, right? So as soon as I started watching, I'm like, oh man, this isn't going to be a good thing. It's not going to be a positive. There's going to be some hidden message, or there's going to be something negative in the end. And it actually wasn't that terrible. It wasn't that bad of a video.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a little inside baseball on that, Ronan comes from MSNBC, and I did an MSNBC piece once thinking that it was going to be very anti. And shockingly, the producer was pro-gun. And this was right after Newtown too. It was, very, very challenging time to do anything pro-gun, and they were really fair. And I actually had some of my liberal friends in LA text me and say, or Facebook me or whatever, liberal and anti-gun, because you can be liberal and pro-gun. But my anti-gun friends, I should specify, say, I really am not pro-gun, but I appreciated what you said about them, and I get it a little bit more. So anyway, I think shockingly there are a couple people in there that are pro-gun, and you'll end up with pieces like that are not necessarily gun hit pieces.
You think about how crazy all a gun is a simple mechanical device that a lot of Americans own. And really, we needed to have a nation, right? We would have never gotten this far without firearms, or we wouldn't be where we're at today, right? But the thing is, are you pro-gun, or are you anti-gun? It's are you pro-automobile, or are you against automobiles? It's just, it's a machine. It's just a device. It's so, are you pro-cell phone, or are you anti-cell phone? Right. Think about it.
What about blenders? How do you feel about blenders?
How do you feel about? I think we need to ban blenders right now. Every year, people lose fingers to blenders.
Exactly. And bagel slicers too. Those things put people.
Can we just have some common sense blender laws?
That's all I'm asking. If it just saves one life, if it only saves one life, it's worth it.
Do you guys see where I'm going with this? Right? It's just why is this such a how do you? I don't even understand. I don't even honestly don't understand how guns ever became a political issue. You know what I mean? You think about it like this. Back in the 1920s during Prohibition, right? The NFA was a result, okay? So, all the, Al Capone type dudes ordering Tommy guns from mail order catalogs for $50. They started using guns in a negative, but I think you look at, the newspapers and the media sources back in the most bloody years of Prohibition, people weren't attacking firearms or being well, Al Capone's pro-gun, so, no wonder he has so many firearms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't make the device into something. That didn't come till much later in American history, post World War II.
Yeah.
Natalie said you can be liberal and pro-gun. Well, the thing is, I have extremely conservative views about a lot of things, and I have extremely liberal views about other things. You know what I mean? So it's saying that somebody's liberal or they're conservative. I've yet to meet one person that's 100% conservative in every single view they have, or 100% liberal in every single view they have. Why do we put these titles on ourselves? Being pro-gun. I I guess I'm pro-gun, but obviously I am because I support the Second Amendment and I participate in stuff like this podcast and I write about it.
You're pro-Constitution, right? Wouldn't that?
Yeah, definitely. If I'm pro anything, one way or the other, it's pro-Constitution. But I don't know. I just the labels lately, all these labels.
No, isn't that? I'm so glad you brought that up because it does feel, especially this week, has been particularly label-tastic.
Exactly,
Everybody has an opinion. I mean, it's been, in my opinion, pretty freaking depressing to watch people jump on these bandwagons, most of which they know next to nothing about, and they just want to opine and yell at each other. And I mean, it's the ugliest week I think I've ever seen on social media ever. Would you guys agree? I mean, I don't know.
I would agree with you, but like between the Confederate flag thing and then the gay marriage, announcement, it was just like a really weird week that way. Like with everybody making the rainbow flag profile pictures on Facebook, like whatever, I don't care, but it was like a bandwagon thing everybody started jumping on, and then people were like, well, why are so many people, even straight people, they're so proud to show that the gay pride flag, but they're not willing to show their their love of America. So then people started putting pictures up of like the American flag overlaid over their profile picture, and then it somehow turned into you don't care about this issue because you're more focused on this issue debate.
Right.
And when those two things really aren't connected, and the only way that they are is that we want more freedoms in this country, not less freedoms.
And if we could focus on that, that would actually be really uniting. So, I don't know, I just feel like I've never seen things this contentious in my entire life. And
it seems
really,
to get worse, really too. That's a problem. It's like every month it's just worse and worse.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's the weirdest time. It really, really is. And you think, especially, when, especially all the campaigns and, everything was yes, we can, and, unifying, and it's been anything but that. Maybe we need to get more into, like, soccer.
No, that's never going to happen.
Isn't that what the whole world unites around? Maybe we could do that.
Listen, we won our independence, so we don't have to care about soccer. Like, we're not Europeans. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything to us. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I'm noticing, especially with a lot of these stories tonight and the stories from this last week or so, is that it seems like everybody is hypersensitive. I'm seeing more sensitivity where people want to be sensitive for certain issues but not other issues. You're expected that you should feel this way about one thing, but this other similar thing is completely different. So no, you can't feel that way. It's one of those things where it's starting to feel like you're no longer entitled to have your opinion. You're no longer entitled to disagree with somebody one way or the other.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm offended by this.
No, I totally agree. Well, and I can't remember who said it, it's attributed to like Rick Warren or Phil Robertson or I don't know who said it originally, but everybody is starting, I don't know when we clicked into this mentality that if I disagree with you, I hate you. Or
exactly, if you disagree, you're automatically, a bad person in the other person's eyes.
Right, yeah. And
but the thing, I think that more people need their feelings hurt. More people need to have their feelings hurt, so they do a little bit of soul searching, and maybe they'll say, you know what, maybe I'm not right on this. Like, I think children should be allowed to have schoolyard fistfights. That's like a critical element of human interaction. Like, honestly, like if your kid pushes my kid, and my kid gets up off the ground and pushes your kid back, and then your kid punches my kid, they should be allowed to have their little fistfight and handle their problems and grow from it. But now, if a kid gives another kid a dirty look, they both get expelled. Like, it's insane. Well, he's not being sensitive. Like, no, of course he wasn't being sensitive. Your son was bullying my kid, and that's why he punched him. What I'm saying is it's like, I swear, this country is growing weaker by the minute, while our enemies are growing stronger by the hour.
I think that's a really good point because it's distraction, right? Because you look at what's happening, and of course we've got more stuff to talk about in a little bit, specifically addressing that. But I mean, what is happening? And of course, the terror level. We've heard like the intelligence, like people who are on the intelligence committees for House and Senate are going on the radio and talking about, and even people at the Pentagon are saying, This is the highest threat level we have experienced since 9/11. In fact, it may be higher than pre-9/11, and nobody is talking about that fact. Instead, we're talking about the Confederate flag and the rainbow flag.
And we're trying to rewrite history now by removing these things.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm just going to be done with it. I'm going to fly a rainbow Confederate flag on the 4th, and not really. Okay.
I'm flying my American flag. Boom.
Let's move on to the UK, where there's a utopia because there are no guns, and they have a fantastic new program that is, save a life, surrender your knife. So they have all these knife surrender bins over there in the UK because knife, homicides and everything else, knife attacks are up.
Which is wonderful. So, like, for those of you out there that don't know, the English, they severely restricted, so you might as well just say they banned guns outright. Like, trying to own a gun in the United Kingdom is like, don't even waste your time, right? So, after they banned firearms, they thought, oh, if we get rid of firearms, then there'll be no crime, right? The bad guys won't get guns anymore, which is stupid because bad guys don't get their guns through legal means, right?
Well, hold on, don't say anything else yet, because I love the way your Pennsylvania accent says bad guys.
Bad guys.
There you go. Okay, perfect. Keep going.
It's funny because you get me, Adam Kraut, and John Patton. We're all from within 40 minutes of each other, and we all have 3 different accents, right? But it's coffee time, right? Anyway, instead of violent crime going down, the good people being disarmed no longer had the means to defend themselves, so violent crime actually went up. And with this whole drive, this isn't the first time they've done this. They've done this before, where now that people can't have firearms and they don't have handguns to defend themselves with, there's no CCW of any kind. They're carrying knives to protect themselves, right? So now they're saying, well, all these people are getting stabbed, but well, yeah, you can go in a store, and what's a steak knife cost at a Dollar General? You can go anywhere and buy a knife. It doesn't have to be a pocket knife, just a piece of sharp steel, one of man's earliest tools. So this whole thing is it's a symptom of the disease of socialism, because that's what caused all this in that country. That they think that, well, it didn't work with guns, but it'll work with knives. So then let's just say they ban knives in England. Then people will start carrying, everybody will have a walking stick, and then they'll bludgeon people to death. And oh, we need to ban wood. We need to cut all the trees down. The logic is so flawed. It's it's like a bad joke.
You can't even have a screwdriver.
This is the socialist mentality, and this is exactly why the Soviet Union fell, in my opinion. They've got the utopian idea, just like Jake said, but they don't understand human nature, and they deny that human nature actually exists. And you can't, unfortunately, rid that some of the evil parts of human nature. And fortunately, the majority.
Yeah. So there's always been violent crime. There's always been murder and rape and all these other terrible things. And we think that through society we can cancel that out of human beings when that's part of our genetic makeup. It's never going to happen. Here's a great example of this, right? So my boss at Recoil, Ian Harrison, right? Ian Harrison is an Englishman, right? So the thing was, Ian served in the British military and got out, and after everything went down with guns being confiscated and banned in England, he's like, this is no longer my homeland. Any nation that won't trust me to be free and trust me to own a firearm, I don't want to be a part of. So he immigrated to America. So you look at it Ian's a great guy, and one of the biggest advocates for the Second Amendment that I personally know, and he wasn't even born here. But that was the thing, was he loved his homeland, but when his homeland no longer trusted him, he no longer trusted his nation. So he left. The thing is, as Americans, if we ever get to that point, there's no place left in the entire world for us to flee where we can have the same freedoms that we have right now. We're like the last holdout.
I'm a little concerned at whoever thought of the marketing slogan for the encouragement to lose their knife. The save your knife, save a life, surrender your knife.
Too Australian. Way too Australian.
Yeah, it's a little Aussie.
Well, I know, but I read it and I immediately think of Paul Hogan as Crocodile Dundee, And I'm like, he would never give up his
This is a
knife.
Yeah.
And so why would I? Why would I surrender my knife? So
It's a pretty good Australian accent, I gotta say.
thanks. I can't get the British side of it down. I can only get the Aussie side. I watched a lot of Crocodile Hunter growing up. So
I found this picture the other day of this dude that
Important show.
he took a glass bottle, and at the bottom of the bottle, he napped a perfect arrowhead out of glass, right? So just like Native Americans would nap obsidian and flint into arrowheads like before, like 13,000 years ago, this guy made this perfect arrowhead, right? So the thing is, it's like, what's a knife? It's just something that separates molecules. It's a sharp thing that cuts things, right?
Molecule.
Like, let's just say that you're successful with banning knives. Like a broken beer bottle is essentially the same thing. A window pane, a mirror, like anything sharp is the same thing and capable of taking human. It's the intent of the individual and not the tool that he uses.
Well, this is
I don't
why
understand why that's such a foreign concept.
Well, because they won't deny they deny human nature.
Exactly.
They don't understand it. I don't know if it's too abstract a concept. It seems pretty basic. I don't know, but the best part about this article, I thought, or the funniest and saddest. It was like funny / sad. Was if you click on the link, you see that it says plastic knives, right? 99 cents each, and then it says no proof, no purchase. It is against the law for anyone under 18 to buy a knife. And they're not talking about like a switchblade, they're talking about a plastic picnic knife. It is, I mean, this is how far they've gone to deny human nature and deny the actual root of it, to address all the symptoms, everything around it, but not the actual cause. And it's really, and it said, in fact, that one woman couldn't buy a plastic spoon because she didn't have her ID.
So the thing is, like, all somebody has to do is just go, like, buy, you go buy a bar of steel and a file. And like, oh, I can't buy this knife. Okay, yeah, I'll buy this file instead. Hey, I'll take a bench grinder. How about that? I wonder, there might be a residual benefit to this, where we might see a whole new generation of English knife makers come out of this.
Whoa, that would be awesome, wouldn't it?
No guns on post office property, says U.S. Appeals Court. So this is a case that, it goes way back, I think. It was about 2013 ruling about a guy in Denver about carrying on post office property, or just a parking lot, I believe is what it started from. Just being able to keep your gun in your car at the post office. And so 10th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against licensed gun owner who said that restrictions violated the Second Amendment right to bear arms. They said the security of the post office building itself is integrally related to the security of the parking lot adjacent to it. So I feel safer.
This is like, all right, so like the whole thing about no firearms in federal buildings, you know, like almost every state of the union that has CCW can't carry a gun in the post office. I mean, that's a universal thing, right? It's a federal building. So what do most people do? Well, most people that carry, I'm not going to drive home to drop my gun off so I can go buy a sheet of stamps, right? So most people, they just leave their gun in the car, go into the post office for the 5 minutes they're in there, and then they leave. So I can almost understand the post office, like you can't be inside the post office with a gun, despite, you know, the whole expression going postal and the origin of that expression, right?
Right.
So I don't know, maybe I need my gun to go in that post office. But the idea that I can't even leave it in my car, which is personal property that just happens to be sitting on some asphalt in front of the structure, that is completely asinine.
Totally agree. And I want to know how far that extends. Does it extend to the curb? Can I park outside on the street? I mean, because, you know, only some post offices have that type of parking available. I mean, it's like, it's limiting. It's interesting because, you know, how there's the FCC regulation that, you know, people have to be able to have access to, like cable, you know, basic cable or whatever, like the 3 channels.
This is yet another example of imaginary lines, as I like to call them, right? So like the signs they put around schools, this is a gun-free zone, or you know what I mean? Like, oh, imaginary line. Here's a sign that says only, you know, it's like a force field that's keeping bad people away. It doesn't work that way, right? So the thing is, and like I told the story before, I believe in a prior podcast, where when I was a kid and I would hunt after school, knowing that I could not have guns on school property, I drove my car to school when I was like 17 and parked off school property. So I'm not breaking state law, I'm not breaking federal law by having a locked, disassembled shotgun in my trunk, but I wasn't violating school policy either. But that imaginary line was literally 1 foot from the school property, but I wasn't breaking the law, right? So that's like, so what's the logic behind that? Like you can't even have it you can't even have it in the parking lot. I want to know how many cars in parking lots of the post office get burglarized.
Depends on the kind of day the employees are having, I imagine.
And then, yeah, so if somebody breaks into your car and steals your gun out of your car, it's not the post office problem, it's your problem, you know?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. This story is aggravating.
Today, sawed-off shotguns became legal in Indiana.
That's awesome.
So yeah, now if you're an Indiana resident, you can have sawed-off rifles and shotguns, NFA items. You know, of course, you have to have the proper NFA stamps and everything, but at least it's a possibility, unlike myself in the great state of Illinois, where they are still banned.
You guys are completely Class 3, right, Jake? There's no Class 3 weapons in your state.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like there's more progress being made with this. Like, Washington State did the same thing not too long ago, if I remember correctly. I think they allowed short barrel rifles as well. I'm not sure about short barrel shotguns, but I know they changed it where you could have suppressors, but you couldn't have short barrel rifles. The NFA thing is so tricky as it is, but like, it's bizarre when certain NFA items are allowable and other ones aren't, considering it's kind of consolidated under one roof, which is, you know, NFA branch of the ATF.
Michigan repealed its ban of short-barreled shotguns last year. Bottom of this article says the rifle portion was a mistake, so maybe it is just shotguns for Indiana, which I don't know.
It's progress. It's a good thing. I mean, we can't argue about that.
A little bit at a time. So, survey finds 1 in 3 American adults who owns a gun is tied to social gun culture.
Yeah, I read that article. I don't understand. Like, there's some stat in there that says like 1 in 3 Americans own guns, and that like people that own guns are more likely. Here, let me read it. This is hilarious because it just makes no sense whatsoever. But what is never really emphasized is in studies is the quantity. Is that wait. But what is never really emphasized in studies that quantify ownership is how it relates to the concept of gun culture, meaning involvement in social events that involve around guns, right? So I guess like what they're trying to say is like we never really realized that people that own guns like to do things with guns socially. You know, like how is this a study? How did they spend any time talking about this?
And it's funny, it's not in usnews.com, it's on the health side of the website.
Like I'm not like, you know how many doctors I know that own guns? Like most doctors I know are sportsmen, and they have like all the guns. They have like the nicest guns.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me show you my Class 7 guns.
Like I know doctors and lawyers that own tanks and like really, really, really expensive, awesome things because they have the money for it. Like imagine like if you made me a millionaire, what would I go buy? I would go buy machine guns and obscure weapons just because I have the money for it, you know. But like, yeah, the funny thing is that about it being on a health page or a medical page.
Right. I mean, did they think all gun owners were just hermits that lived in Alaska? I mean, it's almost like they're surprised that, wow, these people go and There's like shooting events, and there's other things they do together, conventions. Weird.
I mean, and like kind of like the analogy I used earlier about like guys are into the classic cars. They have car conventions, you know. They have car shows where people come together to look at the cars and to talk about the cars and rev the engines. It's a social thing, just like anything else, you know. It's like it's just a niche thing that some people like, and a lot of people in America like firearms because they're cool.
Well, and cars aren't even written into the Constitution.
I'm just saying, it's like I don't understand how it's surprising that people own guns will do things socially with them. Like for me, growing up hunting was a very social activity where I came together with my family when hunting, and we hunted with other families that hunted. You know, like look at deer camp.
You guys did deer drives too, didn't you? In Pennsylvania, is that a big thing out there?
Like some people, I never really got into that style of hunting, but the all-American deer camp, what is that? Like the rifle is what you need to go hunt the deer, but the camp is where all these different dudes come together and they socialize before they go hunt, and they socialize in the evening after the hunt. It's like it's like the last refuge of male masculinity left in this country is deer camp. You know, that's why guys look forward to it so much, to get away from their families, their nagging wives or whatever, and spend time with the boys and talk about the new rifle they bought and have fun. You know, it's an excuse to be social. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
One beheaded, 37 gunned down in acts of violence that Obama said doesn't happen in other advanced countries.
He lies. He doesn't. He also lies and doesn't know actual things. He just talks. So we can move on.
So one person was attacked, beheaded in a French factory, and 37 were gunned down in a Tunisia resort.
The French are kind of taking. I mean, it seems like every month or so they're popping up in the news for acts of terrorism, right? Like whenever you hear, if all you catch from that headline is person beheaded, what's the first thing you think of? You immediately think, oh, this is going to be about Islamic terrorism, and you're going to be right to assume that because that's what it's going to be. But with the French in particular, and especially with that what was that magazine, Charlie, whatever, you know,
yeah, that's right.
Right, that wasn't that long ago. There's been other incidents since then, other, you know, acts of violence that are being perpetuated because of terrorists, you know, but because of jihadists. And the thing in Tunisia is the same thing, you know, it's they targeted a beach resort where everybody's sunning themselves in the open, you know. What and better target do you need than that to?
It's all Westerners too. It was mainly British tourists coming to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that. Like, you know how like Americans, like a lot of people go to Cancun and stuff, or they go to like the Virgin Islands for vacation. Well, a lot of Europe treats North Africa like that. Like Morocco and Tunisia, like Egypt, you know, until things got crazy, and Libya the same way, you know. But like that's a traditional vacation spot for a lot of Europeans, you know. So what better place to do it than a country with loose borders, and it's probably easier to get some weapons into that country than it would be to say Spain or Germany or whatever. So target the people you want to target where they're most vulnerable. That's exactly what they did, and that's probably why they had such a high body count. I mean, if nothing else, it serves as another reminder that we live in a world where every single civilized nation is targeted by these people, the extremists.
Well, it's gonna, you know, just get worse and worse in Europe because they're in denial about it, and they don't.
Well, and some of them, it's very interesting too, because a lot of them, you know, the refugees are all flooding into a lot of the European countries, like especially Italy, right? They're accepting, or they're having to accept a lot of them because, I mean, these people. It's very similar to the Cuban situation, right? Where, I mean, before we recognize them again as a nation that actually honored human rights, which they don't, but whatever.
I mean, it is the same. It's like how like all the Cuban refugees that would go on rafts and little boats and try to make it the tip of Florida. It's the same thing. I mean, like the Mediterranean, yeah, it's a big body of water, but you look at how many countries border that body of water, right? So if you get north, that's where civilization and first world nations are, developed nations are. If you go south in the Mediterranean, you hit nothing but underdeveloped and third world countries. So whenever there's a crisis or there's something bad or negative that happens, you see a mass exodus from Africa or from the Middle East or the Balkans to mainland Europe. I mean, I can't fault those innocent people for wanting to get out of Dodge when there's people running around with machetes cutting people's heads off and executing people and burning villages to the ground. I'd leave too if there's a place for me to go.
Maximum security prisoner escapees have been captured, shot, and so on. So this last week we saw them both be brought to justice. Both of them were engaged and shot, but one died and the other one's in critical condition.
I think he's out now, yeah.
Good.
God, this really is a huge news week. Like, I forget how, you forget that, like, these maximum security prison escapees, like, were finally found. Just crazy.
The dude that they killed had a shotgun, and they told him to drop his weapon, and he didn't, so they shot him 3 times in the head. So, I mean, it's not like the dude was, in prison for tax evasion. He was a bad dude. So, yeah, good outcome.
Yeah, they were both
I owe that officer
murderers. So
yeah, they're like the scourge of the earth, the worst people. But
you know what's been interesting to me about this particular case? A couple of things. One, that everybody was focusing on the prison escapees, and I even saw some cult-like, ridiculousness. Almost like the
rooting for the bad guy.
Yeah, like the Tsarnaev kid, when they put him on the cover of Rolling Stone, like that. Obviously not that level. That was the most high-profile absurdity that I have seen in a very long time. But so you saw some people cheering them on, and that was really my husband's grandmother was murdered, and the whole time these guys were on the run, I kept thinking about these poor the families that were affected by whatever crimes they committed. And these guys, like you said, they were the worst of the worst, right? They had both murdered people, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. But okay, so the second thing so nobody was thinking about their families. Nobody was talking to the families of the victims and how they were affected by this and the fear and that kind of thing. So I thought that was really interesting. But then the other piece was that now the prison director has been put on leave or stepped down or whatever. And so which I find absolutely fascinating, given all of the other scandal that's been going on at much higher levels of our government, and nobody's even getting a slap on the wrist. From obviously, Fast and Furious and Benghazi and all of that, to the IRS scandals, to, the email, to them hacking, Russia and China hacking into our national security. I mean, it is really amazing. Like, nobody at the highest levels is having to step down. Nobody's being disciplined on that level, but you get a prison and, it's like people actually pay for their sins. It's I found that dynamic particularly interesting. I don't know. I mean, thoughts? Anybody?
I mean, that's been kind of like par for the course for a while, though. You know what I mean?
I know, but don't you think it's interesting? It doesn't trickle down that far,
I mean, it doesn't make it right. I agree with you there.
No, it's not. But
It's sad because it's like the nature of the world now. We've accepted that those are the terms that we accept to live in this country or something.
Do you think that ship will get righted, or do you think this is our new standard?
This is our new standard, and it's going to be that way for a long time.
So the one guy was sentenced to life without parole in the killing of a sheriff's deputy, and the other guy was serving 25 years to life for killing and dismembering of his former boss.
Which one was the one that lived?
The one that killed the sheriff's deputy, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
So here's the thing about this, right? Like, if you escape from a prison, right, and you're going over the wall, I'm pretty sure like the prison guards are allowed to kill you on the spot if you're trying to escape, right? Isn't that like the thing? If it's a prison break, like they have the permission to shoot, right? I don't know. I never worked in corrections, but I'm pretty sure that's like the thing. At least what I've been led to believe, that if you're trying to escape jail, they're going to shoot you dead. The thing is, like, I'm surprised they even captured the other guy alive. They should have just did the taxpayers a favor on the spot.
Well, they did shoot him. He just made it.
Kalashnikov's USA new American weapons are now available. AKs being made in the USA. Back in the USA.
Is most glorious. So, I mean, I think it's cool to see American-made AKs. It's like, yeah, we won the Cold War. We're making your gun now. Century just started doing that too. Century has an all-American AK. It's 100% produced in America, but it's neat to see Kalashnikov USA doing it too. I mean, I think it's kind of neat to have an American-made AK.
Yeah, where Ebbs disappeared when we're talking about the AK stories. So
I know, he would love this.
Go figure. So
we might have to circle back so that he can talk about it, because I feel like there would be a lot of passion. There would be. Oh, there he is. Oh, good.
Oh, hey.
Hey, Ebbs. Oh.
Oh, Ebbs is here.
Ebbs, you.
Hey, what's up? What are we talking about?
This is your story that you're going to be so excited about, I think.
Oh, geez. Which one are we on?
Maybe not the AK one.
AK is being made in the USA.
It's about time.
Now I want to hear the Russian accent from you, too, because Nate already did his.
It's time for rifle in America.
It's the most glorious, Conrad.
It's most... I think... Here's what I think. We'll be carrying the same type of ammo as they are. So, let's do this.
545?
Well, I was thinking...
Because, you know, the Russians stopped using 7.62 by 39 as their standard cartridge since 1974.
I know, but what about the terrorists, though? Are they mostly 7.62 by 39, though?
Oh, no, let me do my AK spiel. My deep breath. With over 200 million AK-47s manufactured in the last 60 years, with over 56 nations manufacturing it and 150 variants, you can run into any of them. Any of those many types of AKs anywhere in the world. But it's like, for example, like...
But ISIS. What is ISIS using?
Whatever they can get.
But they're getting it... Well, go ahead.
What I'm saying is, like, standard military cartridges. I'm not arguing with that, like, you know, the Red Dawn scenario that Ebbs is alluding to, right?
Right.
Having the same caliber as bad guys. But the thing was, the Russians made a whole bunch of 7.62 guns in 1974 when they switched over to the 545 by 39, which is a wonderful cartridge, right? And it's actually still the cheapest center-fired cartridge to shoot in America. It is. Because there's not many guns chambered in this country, which is why I own one, because you can get 1,000 rounds like dirt cheap. But anyway, they sold off all their old 7.62 guns to friendly nations, and that's why you see so many 7.62 guns in like Africa and South America and, you know, other countries like that where we see conflicts. And you don't see the 7.6 or the 5.45 guns. It's not as abundant, but that doesn't mean they don't export current produced AK-74s. So you are statistically more likely to run into the 7.62 gun, you know, but that doesn't mean that there's not a whole boatload of 74s out there too.
And my solution is have both.
I have both. What
I
we
do
need
not,
to
but
do.
now I will.
Warning for California hunters, effective July 1st, which was, well, already passed a couple days yesterday. A new set of laws adopted in 2013 known as AB 711, which drastically expand California's restriction on lead ammunition for hunters. So that has gone into effect. So if you're a hunter in California and you don't know anything about this, I suggest you check out our show notes. We got a direct link to the California Rifle and Pistol Association that has a full write-up on this.
This is why I don't understand this though. Like, if you shoot at like an animal in California with a lead bullet and you miss, and the lead buries itself into the earth. I mean, if you think about it, it's just lead and copper, right? You're just kind of like putting it back where you found it.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
No, as
like,
with most things in California, it's baseless, and people have been fighting this for a very long time. It's just another form of gun control, my friends.
Like, I don't know, to me it's kind of funny, you know, but like I used to, like, alright, so like when we were over in the desert, no matter what desert you were in the American military, if you needed to change the oil on your Humvee, you got an E-tool out and you dug a hole and you pulled your Humvee over it, and he pulled your oil filter and he just let it drain into the place that it came from. And he kicked dirt over it and he drove away. I did that so many times. And people were like, well, like, there wasn't a hazmat place for us to turn our oil in, you know what I mean? But, like, honestly, like, I'm just putting it back where I found it. I don't see what the big deal is here.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Oh, you guys are a bunch of environmentalists. He didn't like that joke. It's a true story, but
No. It's a totally different thing, too. I mean, it kind of makes perfect sense. Like, in West Texas, that actually makes perfect sense to me. Like, coming from, deep West Texas, Permian Basin, yeah, I could see that. That makes perfect sense.
There's some dude in, like, Midland listening to this podcast. He's like, yeah, that Merg guy's right. That's what we do.
That's right, he is. High five to Midland.
Gun blogger and others sue ATF over records requests. So, free gun rights advocates, David Cordrea, a pro-gun blogger, Lynn Savage, a federally licensed gun dealer, and FFL Defense Research Center, a not-for-profit corporation that defends federal firearms license holders, claim that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives failed to fulfill a Freedom of Information Act request filed this March. So the FOIA request asks for clarification on how the ATF classifies firearms receivers, specifically how complete the component must be to be considered a firearm. So basically, it's about references to the 80% lowers and whatnot. So we'll have to see.
Good story, Jake. Good story.
I mean, what recourse do they have? I mean, I don't know. They're suing. I mean, this could take a year, and then what? I mean, what if the ATF even after that tells them to go pound sand? I don't. I mean,
which they probably will.
Where else? What other action do you have to take? Where else can you turn?
So
and that's where we are.
Seems like the good old ATF does things however they feel like doing things. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like it's been that way for a while now. Yeah, since what, 2009, I believe. Yeah, January.
It's a good thing that we get to elect the people that are, put in power at the ATF. Oh wait, no, we don't.
Oh right.
We don't have any control over anybody's job at the ATF. Not a single person.
Well, I don't know. I need to watch a movie or something. Just unplug. If you feel like you need to unplug, head over to Amazon and you can contribute to the Firearms Radio Network and This Week in Guns by shopping Amazon with our affiliate link, including Amazon Instant Streaming, which I'm currently hammering through the back episodes of Game of Thrones. So you can check out our affiliate link, bookmark firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. We're to the full auto news segment, stories the real media won't talk about, and other crazy stuff. This is where each of the hosts picks a story or two to call their own. So has anyone claimed any yet?
No, I can go though. I like the old guy who got his grandson to get his gun to shoot an intruder that wouldn't get out. It's a 21-year-old guy, and the grandfather, who's apparently a disabled man, this dude breaks into their house. He tells his 17-year-old grandson, "Go get my pistol," and then once the intruder realizes that it's a kid that's armed, goes toward him, and he's like, "Don't let him hurt you." And this is after the 17-year-old kid is screaming at the intruder, "If you don't get out of here, I'm going to shoot you." The guy comes for his grandson. The grandfather says, "Don't let him hurt you," and he shoots him in the stomach. Whether that was just intentional or that was, he just got the gun up and was able to shoot him before he got to him, if that was the case. The guy's apparently going to live and now be charged. But
wait, are you criticizing the kid's accuracy?
Absolutely. What I was making note of is was he just shooting the first thing once he got the gun up, or was he just shooting the wound? Or
you know what? I think this is really interesting too. criminals. So the criminal goes. You said that I haven't read the whole story, but you said that the criminal went after the kid who was armed, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think this is really fascinating because I really wish, like, the normal law-abiding citizens are terrified of firearms. This is one thing that really pissed me off. Do you remember when down here at LAX, which is 15 minutes from my house, you remember the kid went and shot up, he was looking for TSA officers, and he ended up killing one. And everybody, I mean, he walks into LAX with an AR-15, and it's a puny, like, scrawny little dude. I mean, if you saw a picture of him, you were like, really? That's like, I mean, he's tiny, absolutely. Like, he's no, like, this guy is in special ops, Right. I mean, he's really, really thin. And yet he walks through all these people with an AR and literally starts asking them, are you TSA? Are you TSA? And, they're all saying no, and they're freaking terrified because it's an AR-15, which, I mean, they couldn't tell you it was an AR-15. They're terrified because it's a gun. Instead of, I mean, like, and I think anytime any of these situations happen, we all kind of, or maybe it's just me, I don't know, but we run through these scenarios in our heads like, I wish I had been there because I could have done something about it. I could have stopped that. That was unnecessary. That man did not have to die. And it'd be so easy to just grab this gun away from the bad guy, But the dichotomy there is the fact that the bad guy in this scenario that Ebbs just talked about goes for the kid who's armed. He goes to, probably take away the gun or whatever he was trying to do. He charges the kid with the gun because he's not scared of the gun. Whereas all of these law-abiding citizens are, like, terrified because of what the media has instilled in them to be, like, absolutely, like,
yeah, but at the same time, them being law-abiding citizens that didn't take action, it's easy to say, like, oh, you can just grab the gun or whatever, right? If I see a dude with an AR-15 and I'm in the airport and I don't have my gun, if I can't be 100% successful, I'm probably not going to do anything either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a valid point. I guess it frustrates me that we're all so scared, because we've all been on the range with a newbie who may have some sort of safety violation, and we correct them. You know what I mean? Because we're not scared, and we know how it operates, and we don't have a fear of this inanimate object because we know how it operates. So I don't know. I think if there was just more education, I really feel like we could prohibit a lot more of these issues. I don't know. Maybe that's just theory and completely.
How I interpret that, Natalie, is the thing that people seeing people with guns, they immediately equate it to a bad thing if the guy doesn't have a badge on his uniform. If it's a dude wearing a uniform with a badge, then it's okay to see guns. It's safe. But if the guy is wearing street clothes, he's immediately a bad guy who wants to go on a mass killing spree. You know what I mean? That's the thing I don't like.
Sure, in a public situation, I get that too. I mean, I've thought about that as well, but I just, I keep thinking if you could save the guy. Granted, if that means that you end up with, a whole bunch of badges with guns pointed at you, that's a bad thing too. So.
I mean, like, as a social experiment, I'm surprised somebody hasn't done that already. Like with the open carry stuff, like dudes walking around with, like, ARs and stuff on the slung through Walmart, which I think is one of the stories on our list here. People see a guy wearing jeans and a T-shirt, they flip out. But that dude went to the costume shop and got a police uniform, walked around the same way. How long would it take before somebody even noticed or got upset? You know what I mean? It's like we're equating clothing with good guy versus bad guy. It's kind of like, like the bad guy always wears all black. It's like so stupid. It's like the thought process, how we piece things together as a society now, based off clothing.
At the same time, how are you going to differentiate intent?
Whether or not a gun is slung cross-body muzzle down, or it's being raised and pointed at innocent people, that's one way.
Well, education. Again, that comes back to education.
It does.
All right, Nate, what do you have?
All right, well, first off, there are a lot of really good stories here, right? So I think the one I would like to talk about is the one talking about 74-year-old Uber driver shoots passenger after being attacked just weeks after the company bans firearms on the job. So first off, good for the old dude who shot his attacker, right? So I'm happy for that. But we talked about this before about Uber banning firearms, right? So this is the thing I don't understand, right? If I'm in a state that has CCW and I'm driving my personal vehicle, who the hell is Uber to say that I can't have my gun to defend myself? This is like, how does corporate policy dictate my safety? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So the story to me, I'm glad to see that the old dude he didn't break the law. He blew off corporate policy. His company said you can't have this. So, and this is the thing about companies, like people are like, well, I can carry, but I can't carry at work. I'm like, why not? Like, well, my company has a policy against me carrying. I'm like, what's the worst thing that will happen if you get caught with your gun? You lose your job, but guess what? You can go get another job. You're not breaking the law here, depending on where you're at. But most states, like if it's company policy, it's company policy. It's not federal law or state law. So I am like, if you get away with carrying your gun, man, I would still roll the dice on losing your job, because what if one day your disgruntled coworker comes in and wants to cut some heads off? You have no means of putting out that fire if you don't have a fire extinguisher. That's what it boils down to. So I salute the 74-year-old Uber driver who blew off his corporate policy to protect himself. So good on you, sir. But that was the one I really wanted to talk about. The second one I wanted to talk about, which I find hilarious, is the Walmart refuses to make Confederate flag cake, but they had no problem making an ISIS flag cake. So this dude who looks like a redneck biker, who was from the South, and he's very proud of his Confederate flag, which whatever, it's an inanimate object just like anything else. Obviously in the news right now we're saying that it's a flag that represents hate and suffrage and all this other stuff. Other people say no, it represents something different. Whatever. One thing we can identify is the ISIS cake definitely represents hate, and it's currently, it's current hate. It's not hate from like 100 and some years ago. It's people beheading and raping and murdering innocent people in the Middle East. So Walmart refused to make the Confederate flag cake, but they said, yeah, we'll make your ISIS flag cake just fine. They did say we regret doing it, but it's just ignorance. It's just so. You watch the video. Go watch that video, because you watch it. It's like, what country are we living in anymore? It's so asinine. It's so ridiculous. Natalie, you're from the South. Comments?
Completely agree with you. That you actually that was going to be the one I chose. It was so absolutely ridiculous, completely backward. It's this political correctness run amok, no actual thought put into, no independent thinking whatsoever, critical thinking. It's really.
So I like to think every Walmart bakery is going to have like a list of things they can't make cakes of now. It'll be like the Confederate flag and like the swastika, the ISIS flag. It's like, do not make these cakes. Like I want to like go work at Walmart like right now, so I can work in the bakery to see, so I can get the training packet on prohibited cakes.
Can I get a cake with Calvin peeing on Hobbes?
But the thing is, like take anything in the world, and you will find somebody in this country that will be offended by it. Like, oh look, here's a picture of a kitten. I'm offended by that. Why? Well, I got mauled by a cat when I was a child, and it was very traumatic, and I never moved past it. That's very, like what is happening to America?
I'm offended by all cakes. They make me fat. I mean.
If you're not offended by something, you're not trying hard enough. That's like the new American standard right there.
All right,
no, Natalie. It is. No, I mean, just to piggyback off what Nate was saying, it's totally true. That's what has been particularly disturbing to me all week long, is that people are so offended about everything. And why? I mean, it really, I don't know. I don't agree with your assessment of the fist fights, because, well, at least in California, the 9-year-olds are going to be shanking each other. But I
didn't condone that level of physical violence. Just let the kids duke it out, man.
Yeah, it's not about settling your differences, not bully takes over the playground.
Yeah. Well, anyway, okay. So my choice here, although I can't get any more information on it, it's just an image that I can see from. It's the headline that the 8th grader becomes the youngest ever USA shooting national team member, which is so great, and I'm so proud of. And P.S. It's a little girl, and she is like, come on, so proud that she's doing she's representing her country. She is showing the world. I mean, there are like what, 5 of us that are actually paying attention to this tragically, but I just think it's really awesome that this kid is going to be super disciplined. She's going to end up getting full rides to college and whatever she wants, basically, because of everything she's accomplished at such a young age. But tragically, because it's a firearm, she won't ever be acknowledged, in the mainstream for all of her accomplishments. But still, good on her, and good on her parents, for leading her down this path.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go. Sorry, Dan.
Okay. No. You go ahead and choose, please.
I'm going to go with man shoots down his neighbor's hexacopter in a rural drone shotgun battle. So this is over on Ars Technica. Apparently, this guy was flying a drone over his orchard, and his neighbor saw it and decided to take action, shot it down with a 12-gauge shotgun. And the police report says, I thought it was a CIA surveillance device.
That's my airspace, bro. That's my airspace.
So they're like battling it out in small claims court now to pay for the drone and everything. And
I just really like her last name. It's Stankowitz.
So how does it work? I don't understand how this works, though, right? So if you own property and you have you discover gold underneath the ground, or like gas, like petroleum or whatever, right? Like you have mineral rights, you own the property, it's yours, right? What's below you, right?
Well, it depends on the state, but generally.
How much above your property is still considered yours? Like, what is your airspace? If you violate my airspace, can I shoot down your drone? That's the question here. Are you trespassing with that quad chopper, with a quad rotor, by flying it over my house or my property?
That's a big debate here in California, actually. People are trying to figure that out right now. I think there are already some established rules. I need to go and brush up on that. But, yeah, it's a really good question because people, and a lot of it has to do, too, with, like, the celebrity privacy stuff that they have issues with here all the time.
Paparazzi love those things, and the technology is getting better. So, I guarantee within the next couple of years, you're going to see the FCC really come down on basically personally owned drones of different types.
Yeah, I bet they do.
The same reason why the military wants them, and the same reason why the paparazzi wants them, or creepy dudes want them, so they can fly them over, to the girl next door's house and look in the window.
Not that Nate has ever done anything.
Hey, I don't own a quad rotor, so you don't have to worry about me. I do it the old-fashioned way with binoculars. Jake, I kind of want you to talk about the Buffalo Wild Wings thing, because that kind of ties in what I was saying.
Yeah, that was my number 2. Come on, Jake, don't make us proud.
Well, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah,
so a couple cops in plainclothes walk into a Buffalo Wild Wings, and they obviously walk past the "We don't allow gun" signs, but they're open carrying, and so the hostess or host or whatever says, "You can't eat here," and they're like, "Well, we're cops," and they show their badges, and the kid is still like, "Well, sorry, we have a no guns policy. You can't eat here," and then so they don't, they march out. They're like, "Well, we'll leave our guns in the car." They just leave. And then later on, the restaurant manager says that never should happen. We allow police to eat in here when they're armed. That policy does not apply to them. And so what it sounds like is a case of a kid, maybe high school age or college age, or somebody who's terrified of guns. Who knows, that there was no differentiation when the policy or when the handbook was gone over or whatever, and these cops come in and the kid's like, "Sorry, no guns, period. I don't care if you're cops." Or maybe they had a real problem with the cops and was wielding control over them or something. I don't know. But the manager came out and said that absolutely should not have happened. And for anyone else who eats a Buffalo Wild Wings, just remember that concealed means concealed.
So this is a good thing it's a good thing I'm not a cop, right? Because if I was one of those cops walking in, they're like, "Oh, you have guns. You can't eat here." I'd be like, "Do you have a gun?" "Oh, you don't." "Yeah, I'm going to go take my seat now.
Just tell our circle will be at our regular table, 58.
I guess you better call the police. Oh, wait.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
Well, that brings us to our Patreon segment. If you'd like to support pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns, head on over to patreon.com/week. You can contribute per episode, $1 or $5 per episode, or you can also contribute to the Firearms Radio Network as a whole. That Patreon page is patreon.com/FRN. That's a monthly choice that you can pick there. And Patriot Patch Company makes this episode possible. Check out the Huckleberry Patch pre-order if you're a fan of the movie Tombstone and Doc Holliday. That's a must-have patch for your mole-equipped gear. So check out Huckleberry, or check out patriotpatch.co. It's been a long day. All right. Abs, what's going on? House of Guns, House of Arms?
Hey, things are good, man. We're stocked up on barrels, and we're getting ready for hunting season, and we just got our House of Guns morale patches in. Little 2-inch job there. They turned out
Ooh, looking,
those are
awesome. Looking good.
Yeah, very stylish. So we got those in, and just have to quit being lazy and get those up on the site for sale, and they'll be good to go.
Very cool. And where can people connect with you online?
Oh, yeah. House of Guns is spelled H-A-U-S. We are the anti-Nazi version of Germans. And you can find us at all House of Guns locations, H-A-U-S of Guns, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and .com. And then online store, houseofarms.com. That's my papa's online gun shop, because we believe you should be able to sell guns wherever you want.
Very cool. Natalie, Girls Guide to Guns, what's going on?
Yeah, that is where you can find me. Same thing, Girls Guide to Guns, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc., etc. I'm kind of dabbling in Snapchat and such, trying to figure it out. I'm still learning. I feel old. Snapchat makes me feel really, really old. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. Things are good. We're working on Season 2 of Love at First Shot for the NRA Women's Network right now. We're shooting all this month, which should go up in September. So I'm pretty stoked on the NRA News Super Channel. And, yep, and I also just wrote the cover story for for America's First Freedom for July, all about women and guns, so you can check that out. Proud to have been able to include a lot of my girlfriends who are doing really great work, and we're standing on the shoulders of giants, so proud to be a part of that.
Aren't you glad we ended suffrage?
Are you serious?
I'm being totally.
Yeah, because that was like 1919, man.
I know, but I mean,
as a 1932. What was it? 1932. Shoot, I'm getting the Firearms Act confused. the dates. This is what baby brain does to me. I forget my historical dates. But yes. Yeah, so it's a little outdated, but yeah, I mean, yes, go us. The whole right to vote thing, that was good.
What about your rifle, Natalie?
Yes, my rifle with Devil Dog Arms. If you want to check that out, I did post about it today in my Throwback Thursday post. And we've got 9 different colors with the good folks at Duracoat. You know what I love about these companies is that they're family owned, and they are so proud to be Americans and so proud to support the Second Amendment, and they do everything is made in the U.S., and they do really great work. So Devil Dog Arms is where you can find my rifle, devildogarms.com, and of course they've got all their social media stuff plugged in too, so you can see examples of the gun, and then Duracoat as well. So you can just look for the Girls Guide to Guns line, and there it shall be. And soon, hopefully, we'll have some grip stops on our hands.
Yeah, I like that.
Good segue, right? Good segue.
Yeah, Nate, what's up? Grip stops, are they on the way?
I don't want to make myself into a liar, but right now, AV Guns down in Florida has a bunch of grip stops in stock. They have the exclusive on the skeletonized ones, which are the lightest weight of all the grip stops, right?
What?
And then everybody that's set up to carry grip stops, there's big shipment that just went out, so you should be seeing grip stops. Hopefully, fingers crossed, like pretty much everywhere here next week or so. So I'm excited about that. But right now, this week leading up to Independence Day, just a couple days away, over in Breach Bank Clear, we have a bunch of articles about the Revolutionary War and about some cool historical facts about the Revolutionary War. But I'm particularly proud of an article that I have up there. It's a 2-part series about "We Will Kill You in Your Sleep on Christmas," the truth behind it. Right? So everybody's seen the famous meme of George Washington crossing the Delaware the night before the Battle of Trenton. So I wrote a very accurate historic account, which people are finding hilarious. So I encourage you to go to Breach Bank Clear and read "We Will Kill You in Your Sleep on Christmas." I think you'll enjoy that. Staying busy. Got a lot of stuff coming here in the future. A lot of stuff in the works right now. So flying out to 88 Tactical on Sunday to go take a survival class in Nebraska with 88 Tactical. So pretty stoked about that. A lot of good stuff. A lot of exciting things going on right now. I was on a Kestrel yesterday. I never knew this. The guys that make the wind meters that basically tell you atmospherics. I didn't realize they were a Pennsylvania company. They're like an hour from my house. So I went down to their factory yesterday and got to spend the afternoon with them. So that was really, really cool. It's neat because it's a company that pretty much exists for the gun industry, but they're like not a gun company whatsoever. Like, it was the coolest place. It was like one of the neatest factories I've been to in a while. So that was the highlight of this week.
Very cool. Awesome. So you can check out the show notes at thisweekendguns.com/124, and also leave us that iTunes review, subscribe there, and contribute to the show with that Amazon affiliate link. And that about wraps us up. Thank you, Nate.
Thanks for having me on, Jake.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Sarah. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ebs. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Jake.
That's a wrap. We'll see you next week.